Good afternoon, Scott Baker, and hello, Sierra Holland as well. Good to see you this Thursday.
Good to see you both as well.
It is so good to see both of you, and I'm glad that you've joined me. This is going to be a tough conversation, and I care about both of you. All right, I'm being a little goofy, but the title of the field note that we're going to talk about today is exactly this. Now, did it help, by the way, that I lowered my voice and I kind of whispered a little bit? I don't know if that made me more. It made it creepier.
I thought of it as tactical, and therefore
not really.
It felt put on. It felt put on.
Yeah.
So I just need to be a better actor, right? So the field note title is "You Have to Show You Care Before Delivering a Tough Message." Now, the truth is, leaders do have to deliver tough messages. That does happen. I've had to deliver some of those in my time in organizations. I'm sure we've all had some of those conversations. I don't know. I was trying to think back. Did anybody have one where you were on the other end of this, like where somebody had to come to you and be like, and how did you react? What was, when did the pit in your stomach form? Were you angry? Did you cry?
I was at the back end of one of these relationships where they came to me that way, but it was a different thing. It wasn't a performance issue as much as It's a long story. We shouldn't necessarily.
We shouldn't tell right now.
Just 15 minutes, yeah.
Right.
But no, they didn't hedge it in a way that made me feel loved and respected. It was pretty cold and calculated.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, I think the problem that Mikey and I would have, we can't imagine a scenario where Sierra would be on the receiving end of one of these kinds of conversations. But you could pretend, Sierra, and make us feel better for the difficult conversations we've had.
I mean, I have, but I think when it was done, it was somebody who was artful at this because they had shown that they cared about me in a variety of contexts. They cared about me at work. They cared about my personal life and that it was fulfilling. They cared about my career growth and my trajectory. But I think the subtle piece of this is, yes, you have to show you care about this person before you deliver the tough message. But in the moment when it was delivered to me, it was pretty direct. And I think being direct with your feedback and treating other people like adults can take some of that sting out, because almost my reaction to you, Scott, at the beginning was I knew what you were doing at the beginning of this. That, but it was that you were lowering your voice and almost talking to me in this in this I don't know if you can handle this information. And when I say treat people like adults, it's get to it. Like at the end of the day, most of the time work news, get to the point as soon as you can. And if you have this relational bank of care to draw on, it won't land as harshly probably as the example Mikey's thinking of.
I mean, am I wrong? Wouldn't we just want even our doctors to be that way? I mean, do you really want the doctor to be like, well, or just want to be like, all right, here's the deal. This is tough.
No, I think doctors have a kind of a different relationship with us than our leaders do, because it is a doctor's responsibility probably to get you to accept the care that he's recommending, almost no matter what. Like I'm fine if a doctor kind of fudges in order for me to just take the shot or get the pill or right. And if he's not telling me the truth, I know this is probably a controversial thing to say, but I understand why doctors would have the freedom to lie in order to just accept the treatment because they know what's best for their patients. Whereas a leader doesn't have that kind of relationship with their team in a way that they could get away with lying in the same way that I justify a doctor lying to me in the same way. So I don't have the relationship with my doctor where I'm offended that he fudges on it just to get me to accept the treatment.
Right.
It's interesting though, because I have a really close friend who's a hospice nurse. And one of the tough pieces of news that she has to give every day is this person has passed away. They have died. And for her, she shared, you can't beat around the bush. You can't, you have to have a level of care in the way that you deliver it, but you can't say they've gone on, they've moved on.
Right.
There can't be any ambiguity in the message that needs to be delivered at that moment. So my mind even went there, but she has demonstrated over the time of that person who is in hospice that she cares about them, that she cares about the family that's going through this tough moment. So when the tough message has to happen, she's already built up that trust and that care to help it land in the right way.
Well, Sierra, let me ask you, put it this way, right? So
Mhm.
I think that's a great way to look, a lens through which to look at it. Although by the time somebody has a family member in hospice, you're kind of already waiting for the call. Oftentimes in these work circumstances, sometimes these things come out of nowhere. Yes, I live in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Yesterday, they announced that our major newspaper is going out of business. They're going to shut down in May, and it will be the largest city in the United States of its, in the that doesn't have a newspaper of record per se, right?
Mm-hmm.
So they just announced it. It hadn't leaked. It was like boom, and all these people will, and 2 and 3, almost 300 years of history of the publication of that paper gone, right? So if you're advising those leaders, here's how you're going to have to announce this to the community, to your employees, to this. That's a little different than the conversation Mikey was describing, or even something in a medical scenario with a doctor at a hospice. So in that situation, and this is a lot of times the internal strategic communication that you're doing, and then we can apply it to the leader one-on-one. What are the steps that leaders take when they have to even start thinking about announcing to one person or multiple people even, here's some really difficult news to swallow?
Yeah. I feel like this is where we always go in when we're thinking about communicating, when we're thinking about advising leaders who know that they're probably leading through change. They have to start to forecast the direction early. Even if they can't say, here's all of the challenges that we're facing, and we might not have budget next month to pay you. We shouldn't go that far where it's too transparent. But we do need to start to forecast some of the things that we're looking at, some of the challenges that we're facing, some decisions that are yet to come down the line. When we're talking about broad things, that's what comes to mind. When we're talking about an individual, we need to start to think, what can we forecast about their performance so that they're not caught off guard when we do have to have a deeper development conversation, that they're off track, that they're not progressing in certain areas, that we really need them to improve in a certain area to move to the next level. So I would say I don't want to say it's a failure of leadership if it's a shock to them, but in many ways it is. You're not forecasting what the future looks like. And so no wonder somebody feels blindsided by your tough message. You have to start to not put fear in people, but if nobody has any idea in the way that the business is going, in the way that their professional development is going, that tough message is so much harder to land with care because people lied to them or you've kept them in the dark. So I would say you have to be thinking months ahead, and how can I appropriately forecast with the right level of transparency what's likely, what's possibly on the horizon, what's not going to happen.
Yes, exactly right. Yeah. And Mikey, you've often elevated this idea that look, if you get to this conversation and it hasn't happened before, then you've done something wrong. So if you know there needs to be a tough conversation, it may not even be that it happens in that conversation. You might be like, look, we got some tough decisions to make. So can we sit down and talk about this next Thursday? Right?
Yeah.
Sure.
If it's a letting go, firing conversation, that it's definitely shouldn't be just one conversation. But if you're at the point where you're like, I have to deliver some really tough news, and I have no idea what to say.
I can hear him.
So if you end up saying, like, I know exactly what you're thinking, or I know the kind of thing that should be coming out of my mouth right now, and I have no idea where I'm going to be going with this person, then that means it's clear evidence to the fact that over the last several times you've talked to this person, you probably haven't already shared the kind of care and concern that you needed to. And so you're actually in a more dangerous spot at that point, because that care and concern needs to be communicated within like the first couple of conversations. And all of a sudden people are going to be suspect of you. So what I really like about this is it's like, this is an encouragement. If you're not already like this needs to be a change in your life. Like the way that you actually deal with your employees and your team on an ongoing basis needs to show more care regularly, so that if these kinds of things kind of crop up in your life, it's not a hard thing. So all the examples at the bottom of and I think we should probably go through these as the examples down here. All those examples should kind of naturally flow off your tongue, and it shouldn't be like some weird script that you're reading because you've never done it before, right? And so we shouldn't get the idea of what Scott did to us at the beginning of the show where, he's definitely reading some kind of weird script here.
But I want to highlight two things, Mikey, because I went in the exact same direction. You have to lead as if you are going to have to deliver a tough message down the line. And if you're going to have to deliver that tough message down the line, you have to show that you care today, because you can't just show up caring with a different tone of voice and with a different demeanor when that tough message comes, because then it feels phony, it feels inauthentic, and it feels like a script. But if you take into consideration that not everything in your power as a leader is under your control, so you better be showing your care of others constantly, consistently, reliably, loudly, so that when tough messages come, one, you've brought them along, but two, they know you deeply, deeply care about them. And that tone of voice that you use or the directness that you have in that message feels authentic to who you are as that leader.
Right. So I assume, Scott, you can come back on.
Yeah, I have it. I think my AirPods just crapped out or something, but I have you on the MacBook speaker, so I could hear you, and hopefully there's no feedback.
Yeah,
I
no
was
feedback.
muting in between. The big cultural examples we have on this, the George Clooney movie Up in the Air, about a guy who's helping companies like lay off lots of people, and there's this process. And then there's the famous Cheers episode from 40 years ago where Norm in the bar is the one who just is given the bad news, and he ends up crying in the back room with people. But underlying all of that, and the artifice of what happens in the Up in the Air movie, there has to be a feeling that if you as a leader do believe that you're helping this person, you actually have to believe you're helping them. You're finding them actually connecting to a better direction for them. And even if it's a bitter pill to swallow, I think then you can actually take some pride in the fact that you're that person, like a doctor who's saying, look, we're going to have to go through this kind of surgery. You're not going to be the same person, but I'm going to help you be maybe a better person through the suffering that you're going to go through with this, but I'm going to be right there with you. Right. I was with a guy yesterday, and his mother was very sick, and he had to call his doctor, and she was from another country, didn't have insurance. And the doctor was like, bring her in. Right. He was taking that step to be like, I'm with you. I'm on your side. I'm going to help you through this. So I think that there's a wonderful message in this field note to leaders to say that you're actually given a privilege to be the kind of person, because there's going to be bad news. Be the person who can actually find a way to communicate that in a way that makes this a when this path forks for this person, you're not going to get this job. You're not going to get this promotion. You're not going to get this bonus. You might even lose your job. But this other path, and I'm not only just saying it now, and I'm not just offering you a package, but here's what I can do to help you, and here's what I want to do to help you. And if you if they can believe you through that, then it probably makes you a better person, and it definitely will make them a better person.
Right. Yeah. The second bullet point example, I care deeply about the team and your role in it, which is why it's my job to talk about something that isn't working. Again, this isn't delivering the message. Now, they might catch on exactly. Whoever you're talking to might have enough context of the situation that they know exactly what you're saying before you even have to say the actual. But this isn't like magic words of how to deliver the message. This is exactly what the field note title is saying. Before you deliver the tough message, you have to show you care. So having that phraseology down is not about the exact words that are coming out. It's about do it first before you say the bad thing. Make sure that you express your care and concern for people. And here's a few examples of the way to do it. Did you have a favorite in there, Sierra?
I think they all work. For me, it's all about being genuine to your own voice, and that it's something you would actually say and sounds typical of you. But what I was going to say that isn't necessarily in the field note, but always comes to mind as a communication professional, is the medium that you choose really matters. Anytime that you have bad news, you need to deliver it to the people who matter most to you in person. In person. If in person is impossible, you need to give them a phone call at your earliest convenience.
Right.
Sometimes bad news over the phone is actually easier because the person on the other end doesn't have to control their emotions for you. They can cry, they can have a visual outburst and not feel like they have to manage their face. But saying, I know how tough this news is going to be, so I'm going to be there in person to deliver it, and so that we can have a real conversation and I don't get to go just retreat to my home office after I've hung up the phone. It says a lot about how much you actually care about that person and how present you are for them.
Right.
But to your other point, Mikey, thinking about how after the news is delivered, because you have to show that you care before the news is delivered. But then what commitments can you make? How can you be more present after the decision or after the tough news has been delivered so that they really feel you care? Because you can say,
Mhm.
oh, I really care that you land somewhere that you love, but then all of a sudden you get swept up into interviewing for the new org that you're creating, the new org that this person is not going to be a part of, and you forget to check in. You forget to ask
Right.
how the resume is going. You forget to refer them to other people. And in that moment, they go, well, they said they're going to help me get this new job. Where are they?
Right.
So you have to show that you care before, during, and after, and presence and commitment to that really matters.
All right. Scott, if you had to do this and you needed to lay off 20% of your team and it came from 3
Mhm.
levels up higher than you and you didn't really have a choice to be able to negotiate the 20%, and you know that there's going to be a weird public message like what Sierra is saying, that
Mhm.
it's going to be, sent to everybody by email, and you want to capture to make sure that your team knows that those 20% that are being laid off, that you do care about them,
Mhm.
but you also have some confidentiality because you
Yeah,
don't want the
right.
message leaked before the public. How would you think to do this then? You want to create a little bit of heaven in this hell that you're about to go through. So you do have an
Yeah.
obligation as a leader to do something, but what's the actual move there?
Well, I'm not sure we can solve that in the time frame that we're in here, past time already. But let me go right to the heart of what you're saying. Oftentimes in corporate situations like this, even if I'm coming to tell you something, I have corporate practice, bylaws, legal restrictions on, even what I can
Mhm.
promise you, or even the indication of the complications of I'm going to be there for you in the future. And people will be like, well, you said you were going to give me a reference for my next job. And you're like, well, actually, I'm not even allowed to be a reference for you on your job. There's all kinds of ways that this gets icky, right?
Yeah.
So I'm going to just go to a more practical thing, because this is mentioned. I think it's in one of our behavior videos in our playbook. But I know that I've heard one of our partners talk about the fact that they learned early that sometimes when somebody gets a promotion or a new job, people will call and say, "Hey, congratulations." And this person was talking about the fact that when they heard that somebody got fired or let go, that they would call and they would say, "How are you doing? What's going on?" Right. But then they would put, just for themselves, maybe it's not even a close personal friend, a reminder in their own calendar so that
Mm.
they get the alert that comes up 6 weeks later. Check back with that person.
Right.
How's it going? What have you learned?
Mhm.
Right. Because sometimes when you're helpful to people in those moments, your time may come too, but you
Right.
may build a network. And I think that's true. Like I got a LinkedIn message from somebody that I hired 15 years ago who'd been doing another great job, and that they had a reduction in force, and he was reaching back out to me because I think that over a bunch of different things, there was a level that, like, I'm actually going to help you if I can, right?
Mhm.
You want to develop that reputation. And I think that if you're seen that way, that even the people on your own team are going to develop that reputation. Let that grow. Be the helpers of people that just, put their arm around each other and say, we're going to get through this together.
Great. All right. Well, thank you both for that. I wish we had a couple more minutes here to wrap this up in maybe a different way, but you know that I care about you both, and sorry to see this come to an end. But the great news
Likewise.
is the 3 of us will get together next Thursday. How about
Yeah,
that?
yeah. Although, Mikey and I, by the way, we were long, off the market before, ghosting people on text message, or like, this isn't working out. That was never a factor. But referring to our yesterday thing, Mikey, I think I just want to be the guy that has to break the news to people that only have the Gen Z stare, right? So I'd be like,
Mhm.
all right, we're going to let you go. And they're like, "Hmm."
Yeah.
Right. That would be the easiest way.
Right. As young as Sierra looks, she would not fit in the Gen Z stare. She would
I
be
don't know what that
whatever
is.
the millennial malaise.
Google Gen Z stare, and you'll be like,
Okay, I'll look it up.
oh, okay.
All right. See you both. Thank you.
See ya. Take care.